So let us start with today's session, wherein the syllabus that you're going to study, we are going to explore that one by one in detailed and depth manner. As there are a lot of BCom students as well here, non-technical background students from mechanical civil engineering, and of course we also have students from CSE background. But since we have audience from all the backgrounds, I'm going to start from very entry level, basic level, and firstly, I'll make you understand the syllabus that you need to learn. Okay? So, first step of your syllabus, guys, would be to start your learning journey with core Java. To start your learning journey with core Java. Now, the question arises, why should I learn core Java? What is the reason behind it? See, core Java is a very powerful backend programming language. It's a very powerful backend programming language. When I say backend programming language, what does this mean? See this. What does this mean is, let's assume I'm building one application and this application has a front end. Do not write anything, just focus. Lectures are getting recorded. I'll also give you soft copy of notes later. Just keep listening. So whenever we build any application, we will divide that application development into three layers. Front end, then we have the backend code, and here we have the database code. Here is what we have, what? The database related code. Here I will build the backend code, and this will be the front end. This will be the front end. Example, I'm building one simple registration form where a candidate will enter his name, his mobile number, email ID, and then there is one submit button. So there is a field that will take these inputs. What are the inputs it will take? It will take name, mobile, and email ID. Now when I submit the data in my front end, this data from the front end should be fetched into the backend. Okay? This name, email, mobile, my backend code will read that data from the front end. Understand this in layman terms. What is backend doing? It will read that data from your form, okay, and that data that it reads, let's say there is some name, some mobile number, some email ID. So whatever data we had here now, this data, okay, when I now click on the button, this data is passed on to my backend. Now the backend, okay, to read this data in the backend, I should be well versed with Java. There are a lot of backend programming languages like C Sharp, we have Java, we have Python, right? Many programming languages are there. But Java definitely is not only popular but widely used programming language for backend. So what is this backend code responsible to do? Whatever data you enter in the form, that data reading my backend code has to do. And once it reads that data, it has to save that data permanently somewhere for future use. Like you all registered for the demo class. You got a link. You went to my website. Yes or no? In my website, there was a form. You entered your details in the form. When you clicked on submit, that data from the form we have extracted in the backend. And after taking that data, I saved it in a software called as a database. If I don't save this data, then how do I send a follow-up message? Because some student might forget because of busy schedule that look, there is a batch on 12th November, so we had to send one follow-up alert. That follow-up alert I can send only when your data is present somewhere permanently. So that data I will store it permanently inside a database. Did you understand the first part of explanation? What is the first part of explanation? Right? Whatever data you will enter in the front end, my backend code should be responsible to read that data, and that data it will further store it in backend database, right? In backend database. I hope this part is clear. But now the question is, how do I read this data in the backend? So in order to do that, your journey should start with Java learning. Now, if you don't learn Java, this backend coding, you will not be able to do that. The first usage, why we should learn Java programming language. Now, next, let's proceed further. In order to read this data in the backend, I will use Java, but in order to use Java, we will use something called as a very old technology called as servlet. So the complete servlet coding, we will do it in the form of what? Java programming. Example, you see here some batch, I'm just teaching them a very simple, development, since that's the beginning session of these guys. If I now open this file, I've returned some HTML code here. Forget about the code. Now how this code looks like is when I do run on server, you see I've got one HTML page. This HTML page. Can you see that? I'll enter the details here, and when I click on submit, here the same project, I have the backend code written down here. So I have a backend code written down here. And this backend code now can take that data and it can print the data. This complete backend code is written in the form of what? Java, right? Is written down in the form of what? Forget about the code. We are not here to now understand the code, only to understand how this backend and front end is working. Correct? So now when I submit this HTML form, the data from here will come to my Java code. And let's see, this Java code is printing that data in the backend. Let's analyze. Right click, run as, run on server, select, finish, restart. Okay. So this complete Java code that I'm writing here is using a technology called as servlets. Servlets are responsible to read data from a front end. To read that data from front end, we use servlet, and to write the programs in servlets, we should know Java. Now I'll enter here some name like Mike, email and mobile. When I submit, it makes a call to backend, and see my backend Java code could read that data and print for me. Now instead of printing, I can take this data and give it to database further. So here there is a code I've written down for database. Okay, so it reads the data from front end, gives it to backend, and backend is further storing that code into what? Database. So if I now right click, just understand the flow. Right click, run as, run on server, and let me try to see what happens now. Okay, why Java programming is important, we are talking about that, not anything to do with programming. Okay, I'll enter the data xxx at the rate gmail.com 9632629034. Now when I click on submit, you see that my backend code reads that data, and that data that it was reading is further, it is storing it into a software called as database. Now if you go to database, select this and run, you see I got that data xxxx at the rate gmail.com and mobile number. Did you understand that now? Now this complete coding, understand here, the complete coding of servlet is done using Java. So what is servlet doing? Reading data from the form. It reads this data from the form. It reads the data from the form, and that data that it is reading now, that data that it is reading, further it will take that data and it will give it to a concept called as JDBC, Java Database Connectivity, JDBC. Okay, so whatever data you are entering in the form, that data my servlet will read, that data it will give to JDBC, and JDBC will store that data into a database in the form of table. So I can access this data from this table as and when I require it. Now the question is, can I do this servlet coding without knowing Java? No. Can I do this coding to connect with database without Java? No. JDBC coding requires Java, servlet coding requires Java, and without Java, the backend coding you cannot excel. Sir, this is all outdated technology. Today, we do not use servlets and JDBC. Then what we will use? Right? Did you understand the first point, students? Online students, please comment in the chat box. Did you understand now why our journey of learning should start with Java? Yes? Did you all get this? Any doubts do you have it here? No doubts? Clear with this part? Now observe. This whole this whole concept of servlets and JDBC is outdated. We don't use these concepts now. Instead, we are going to replace this servlet with a concept called as Spring Boot. With a concept called as Spring Boot. And instead of storing data in the database using JDBC, instead of storing the data in database using JDBC, I will replace that with Hibernate. Now, this is a modern way of building backend code. If you want to build a backend code, you should be very good at Spring Boot. You should be very good at Hibernate. Now, what Spring Boot does? Firstly, before knowing what Spring Boot does, firstly understand, in order to write any programs in Spring Boot, again I should know Java. Which means if you don't know Java, you cannot do Spring Boot coding. And if you don't know Java, you cannot do Hibernate coding. If you're interested to do coding, right, the backend coding in Spring Boot and Hibernate, your first level of learning is to excel in Java. Are you understanding now? So what Spring Boot will do? Same thing again. Our Spring Boot is going to take the data from this form. Layman terms, this form data my Spring Boot will read. And that data Spring Boot will give it to Hibernate. And Hibernate further takes that data and stores it into the database. Got it now? But can I directly learn Spring Boot? No. Can I directly learn Hibernate? No. Our learning has to happen with what? Java. Did you understand now? Yes. Are you able to follow me? Yes, no. So if you look at yesterday's syllabus, the first question is why we should learn Java. I've started with that. And there are a lot of features in Java 8 which we should excel in. Because I'll be using these features of Java 8 in your projects. And of course, we'll be learning multi-threading and data structures. Why data structures? Where we will use it? Okay, let's take one example. Whenever there is a collection of data I want to store, I will use a concept of data structures. Imagine now there are 10 people, they perform a login. For every mobile number, one OTP is generated. If 10 mobiles I use to log in, there are 10 OTP numbers generated. For every mobile number, there is one OTP generated. So I'll enter the mobile number, my backend code generates one OTP and that gives it to me. Now that OTP that it gives it to me, I will again enter in the form and that OTP if is correct, I get the login. Am I right? I have a requirement in my project to store the mobile numbers and the OTP. Correct? But it is not just one mobile number. If 1 lakh people will log in, it is 1 lakh numbers with 1 lakh OTP. It's a collection of data I need to store as a key called as mobile number, and the value against that is the OTP. Do you agree with that now? So key here is a mobile number and the value here is what? OTP. Now here, definitely I'll be using data structures in my project called as map. I'll use a data structure called as map that will store the values as a key value pair. We will build all these login pages during our project, which is OTP based login. I'll be teaching you all of these things practically. Correct? Or let's say my project has one more requirement, right? I want now all the data, all the names of the vegetables to be stored as a collection. Again, I will use a data structure. So data structures will be important when we are working on projects, and how to use this effectively, we'll see that practically. Is this clear, everyone? Yes, everybody got this idea now? Okay. So data structure concept in Java version 22, data structure concept in Java version 22 was very widely modified, and they introduced a lot of new concepts here which I've included in my syllabus already. Is this clear? I've included in my syllabus already. Tell me why data structure is required. What example I gave you? If I want to store a collection of value, not one value. If it is one mobile number, one OTP, okay. What if I want to store collection of values? 1 lakh people are logging in, 1 lakh OTPs. How do I store that? Correct? I will use a concept data structures here. Okay. When there's a collection of value to be stored in a structured way, for every mobile number, one OTP, that's the structure I need to follow to store the data. I'll go with data structures. So that for mobile number one OTP generated given, when verification happens, it happens for that mobile number. So for every mobile number there is one OTP. 1 lakh mobile number, 1 lakh OTP. 1 lakh mobile number, 1 lakh OTP stored as a collection. Key value. Key is a mobile number. Value is an OTP. This is called as a key value pair. I will go with map concept. Example, I'll go with a map concept. Are you understanding? Yes, online students, please keep communicating. Please keep communicating. Right? You have to be very interactive. Shall I proceed further? So far we talked about why Java, why data structures, multi-threading will help us improve the performance of the application. When we are dealing with huge amount of data, how performance we can improve, multi-threading, Java 8 features, we will learn that. Now, we have an outdated part of the syllabus, which JSP, servlets, JDBC, SQL, mini project. Definitely you will get 0 questions here. And I'll not spend much time. But we will learn things here, like what is JSP. If you now observe, in the JSP page, this is all HTML code. This is all HTML code. When you're learning JSP, I can embed Java code inside JSP. Like I'm writing simple Java code. Forget about the coding, but just understand what am I doing. I'm writing here simple Java code. Embedding of Java code inside HTML, if you want to do, we use JSP concept, which is again a very old concept. Now when I run that, when I run the JSP page, there is HTML code and Java code, and my Java code prints what? 100. My Java code prints what? 100. Can you see that here? Is it printing 100? Yes. I hope you got an idea about now what is this. Abhishek, what is Spring Boot doing here? See, Spring Boot layman terms, our Spring Boot, when I submit the data in HTML form, Abhishek, that data Spring Boot is reading it. So I'm using this technology called as Spring Boot, which can take data from HTML, and that data Spring Boot gives it to Hibernate, so that Hibernate further stores that into database. And also the data from the database, again we will come back in the vice versa manner and give it back to front end. So the data flow can happen from HTML to Spring Boot, Spring Boot to Hibernate, Hibernate to database, database to Hibernate, Hibernate to Spring Boot, Spring Boot to HTML. This flow of data to happen, the flow of data to happen, right? We require Spring Boot and Hibernate concept. Spring Boot is interacting with my front end to read data. In our analogy, layman terms. Easy explanation I'm giving. And that data it gives it to Hibernate, which has a potential to store that data into database. Did you understand now? Online students, clear? So can I do Spring Boot coding without Java? Can I do Hibernate coding without Java? Can I do servlet coding without Java? Can I learn JSP without knowing Java? No, I'm using Java everywhere here. I'm using Java everywhere here. I hope this part is clear for you. Just analyze once quickly. I'll give you some 30 seconds. Analyze. Right. Everyone clear? Any doubts, any questions, any queries, please do let me know. If you're all clear, we can continue further. Now, JDBC is a concept wherein we can write Java code to connect with database and put the data into it. Java database connectivity. Okay, Java database connected. Java is connecting with the database so that we can perform some operations in database like storing data, deleting data, updating data, right? Okay, reading data, all of these things, fetching of data, things like that. Is this clear? Okay, now let's continue further. Now, what is Hibernate doing? That's again a way of interacting with database, but unlike JDBC has many drawbacks, Hibernate overcomes that drawback. Like JDBC is like that old version of the cars, and Hibernate is like the latest versions of the car with the latest engine. Both does the same thing, right? It is a car, but the difference is old technology versus the new one. Something like that. Beginners understand. Yes, the data that you read from database has to go to Hibernate. Actually, if you look at a proper flow, Puja, that is what is going to happen. From Hibernate, we are putting the data to database, and from database, data has to come back to Hibernate. And then it is given to Spring Boot and then front end. If you carefully observe during our practicals, you will analyze this. Now, I have talked about some of the important things like core Java, data structures, multi-threading, Java 8 features, HTML to build front end, servlets, JSPs. CSS can make our pages look beautiful, right? Beautification of your pages, look and feel of your page, like it's doing makeup to your HTML. When you do makeup to your HTML, it will start looking very good. Correct? How the button should be, color of the button, size of the button, shape of the button, right? All of these alignments, all of these we can take care of. SQL is used to interact with database. Now see, I have a database here, right? For example, I created one database called as DB100. I gave some name to my database. It already exists. So let's call that as DB November. I'm creating one database. This data that I'm creating here, understand DB100, DB November, that has been created here. Can you see that? Now what I'll do is, this is the table in which now I will be storing the data. This is the table in which I will be storing the data. How, sir? So firstly, I will use SQL query. This is where SQL comes in picture to interact with your database. Moment I did, you see, this got highlighted. I'm communicating with the database using SQL, structured query language. Are you understanding? If I want to create a table in it, again I will use an SQL query. Forget about the queries. Create table registration, right? And then I'm creating some table here. Okay, some table, like I want a name column in my table which can store string up to 145 characters. I want here email. I want here email which can store up to, let's say 200 characters. Now when I select this and run, you see what happened in my database is one table got created. Can you see that here? And that table has two columns, name and email. Are you understanding now? How am I interacting with the database using SQL? Is this clear? Standard way of doing that. Okay, shall we continue now further? Now, trust me, most of the places your course ends here. Where it ends? Exactly here. And our courses now begins from here. Begins after this. The major course, now what you're going to learn is going to happen after this. After core Java, servlets, JSPs, mini project, Spring Boot, Hibernate, and now is what actual course begins. Let's look at it now, what I meant. So we are going to look at now Spring Security and JWT tokens. Why we require this? You have to analyze this in your syllabus copy. Is the trainer training you on Spring Security? Because if you do not learn Spring Security, you don't even know how to build a login page. You don't even know how to build a login page, and you're already a developer. after completing training you're assuming. So most of the time when you do the courses, Spring Security syllabus is skipped. You're not learning Spring Security, which means you don't know how to build the login logout pages. So in Spring Boot, there is a concept called as Security, Spring Security with JWT token, with JWT token meant for building login feature. Now when we build a login feature, firstly we will do authentication, and the second one we will do authorization. I'm already recording the class, don't worry. I will do authentication and authorization. Sir, what does this mean? Can you explain? Now this is my username field and this is our password field, and here I have one button. Okay, this is the button. I'll enter the username, I'll enter the password. Verifying the username and password is correct or not is called as authentication. The entered username and password is right or wrong, we need to verify that, and that to be done we should know authentication. Authorization is whenever you're working in any projects, let's say Make My Trip, there are two important modules when it comes to hotel booking in Make My Trip. One is owner module, property owner. As a property owner, he can post the hotel details, post property, meaning his hotel details he can post along with the photos. He can delete his listing. He can delete delete his listing. He can update his listing. Correct? And there is another module here which is customer, that is you guys. As a customer, you can search property. When I say property, I mean hotel. And you can book hotel and you can make payment. You can make what? Payment. Now, what is authorization? If I log in as a hotel owner, if I log in as a hotel owner, then as a hotel owner, I should be able to post a property, delete a property, update the property. Correct? This is what the features I should be able to access. I'm granting him only specific application features to be accessed. But when you log in as a customer, that is we guys, same login page, when you log in as a customer, then as a customer you can search, book and make the payment, but you cannot post a property, delete a property or update the property. Customer cannot do that. We are controlling which user can access which features in my application, and that authorization concept our Spring Security will provide that. Did you understand this, guys? Students? Yes? Yeah? Everyone, are you clear with this part? Please tell me. Why we should learn Spring Security? Tell me. Spring Security and JW token, authentication and authorization. And without this, we cannot work on the projects. Let's say I'm building one doctor appointment booking app, right? You see this here? Doctor appointment booking app. This one. Now, in this project, I have all the details related to doctor. When a doctor logs in, doctor can access all these features. But when the patient is logging in, patient can access these details and payment services and booking services. Okay? So this kind of development to be done, firstly, you should know the concept of Spring Security. Now, most of the time, these core concepts are skipped. Trainers, they put that in their brochures, but in actuality, that is not covered because it's a lengthy concept and a tough concept. So simplification becomes at times difficult, trainers are not aware of it, they skip it, right? Cross check this one. Okay, so we will not only simplify this, at the same time you will understand the concept in depth manner, and you will put this in your resumes, how to basically use these as a tool during your interviews. You have to understand. Are you understanding, guys? Yeah, everyone clear? Okay, now let's continue further. The next concept, what is very important, very important, is API development. We'll understand why we have to excel in API development or RESTful web services. We call that as API or RESTful or web services. All are same. All are same. Why we should learn this now? Now, I have a simple question for all of you. Okay? You all book tickets. Speed is okay? Speed is okay? Able to follow me? Yes? Now you all book tickets in Make My Trip. Flight tickets. Flight tickets in Make My Trip. But in Make My Trip, right? If you go here, MMT, Make My Trip, right? In Make My Trip, when you're booking the flights, are you seeing only a particular flight details or all the flights? Huh? All the flights. Okay, all the flights. Yes or no? All the flights you see here. You see your Indigo flight, Indigo. You see Akasha. Then you see SpiceJet. Or I don't know, SpiceJet, Indigo, SpiceJet, whatever it is. Air India, Air India. Yes or no? Now, how are they actually displaying all the flight details here? Have you ever thought about it technically? So, what is happening here? Every operating airlines like Indigo, Air Asia, they have their own website. Now you go to Indigo, they have their own application. You go online, search here, Indigo. You will see Indigo has its own application, which is called as indigo.in. When I now add a flight in Indigo, when I add a flight in Indigo, understand my requirement. I did a new flight addition in Indigo. Moment I add a flight in Indigo application, that flight details has to reflect in Make My Trip. If I cancel the flight in Indigo, Make My Trip, flight details should get cancelled. If I reschedule in Indigo, the data should reflect in Make My Trip, reschedule. If the prices changes in Indigo, the flight prices changes in Indigo, then in Make My Trip, automatically the flight price should also change. The flight price should also what? Change in Make My Trip. How is this happening? How is this happening? That I add a flight in Indigo, those details I can see Make My Trip. They're different softwares. How are they now connecting two different softwares? Make My Trip is a different software. Indigo is a different software. How is this happening? When when I book a passenger in Indigo, when a passenger books a flight in Indigo, when a passenger books a flight details in Indigo, passenger details will go to, sorry, when a passenger books the flight details in Make My Trip, the passenger details should go to Indigo. How? So what is happening, we are using here a concept called as API that exchanges the data from Indigo. Flight details are given to Make My Trip, and passenger who books the flight, his details are given to what? Indigo. This exchange of data between two different softwares, regardless of technology. Let's say Indigo is developed using .NET and Make My Trip is developed using Java. Still, I can make them exchange the data. Okay, let's think more now. So when you go to Make My Trip, when you go to Make My Trip and you book a flight, when you book a flight, okay, let's do one thing. Uh, let's go to Make My Trip, and Now I will book a flight. So when I now here try to click on view prices, and then when I click on book now, it actually takes me to a payment gateway page. It takes me to a payment gateway page, right? It will take me to a payment gateway page called as Razorpay or Atom, Razorpay, Stripe, whatever payment gateways. Now if you observe, Stripe itself is a different software. Stripe itself is a different payment gateway. They tell, I will provide you online payment services, but for every payment done, I will take transaction charges. Okay, I will take transaction charges for every payment being made online. Now here, Stripe, I have another software called as Stripe, very popular payment gateway. Now Make My Trip has to use Stripe for making payments. Once the booking details I enter and click on pay now, Make My Trip will take you to Stripe. In Stripe payment will happen. In Stripe payment will happen and it will return back. It will return back the success or failure message. How do I make my trip application connect with Stripe? Again, I require API gateway. Like example here. Let's see this here. We are working on payment gateway in my project, payment services. Okay. Now here we have integrated Stripe payment gateway, so that if anybody does the booking, that payment gateway, okay, will come into picture. It is my Java code. My Java code. You see, this is Java code. My Java code is calling a payment gateway. My Java code is calling what? Payment gateway. How am I calling? Now see, this is my Java code. I want to make a payment. 50,000 USD. 50,000 USD means it is 50,000 cents actually. It is not taken in dollar. It's taken in cents. Lowest value. Like how 1 rupee is equal to 100 paise. Okay. $1 is equal to 100 cents. So 50,000 divided by 100. The total value will become 500 US dollar. Now when I click on send, you see it is my Java program is talking to payment gateway and I got a payment link. I got a payment link. Now when I take this payment link and put here, when I take this payment link and put here in the URL, I did not copy that. Right click, copy. I will now paste this here. You observe, it is redirecting me back to payment page. Yes or no? Right? Okay. Put that here. Pay. Now, in my payment gateway, this payment has been executed. My Java code is talking to Stripe. This I did it because I know how to use API development here. I know how using API to make my software communicate some other softwares. Or I have implemented one more form today in one of the batch where there is a simple form. Upon submission, one SMS is going to the candidate. How this SMS integration is done? So my Java code is talking to another software called as Twilio, and this Twilio provides me a feature to send SMS. How I'm integrating Twilio with my Java code to send SMS, WhatsApp, email? Again, this is all because of API. Without API, such development you cannot do. Why? Imagine I want SMS feature in my project. I want SMS feature in my project. If I want an SMS feature in my project, if I want SMS feature in my project, then you cannot develop full SMS software. You want to construct a house, you will not manufacture bricks by yourself, steel by yourself, right? Cement by yourself. You will not manufacture. You will take ready-made. Why will you take ready-made? That will lower the cost of construction. I'll take ready-made brick, construction cost will reduce. Cement ready-made, construction cost will reduce. Will I put a factory to manufacture cement specially for my building? No. So this API is like purchasing ready-made things from market. You want SMS? Go to Google, search who is providing this SMS API. Ready-made software available, take integrate. Development cost reduced. You want payment services online, search which company is best, take integrate, ready-made. This APIs gives us a ready-made softwares available, and when you integrate, development cost reduces. Did you understand? Yes or no? Yes or no? Are you all able to follow? Sure? Paka? Okay. Now, we just got an idea what is an API. Online students, all able to follow? All able to follow how serious this concept is going to be now? How serious these concepts are going to be, isn't it? And if you do not learn these concepts, that's where we will not be able to, right, even prepare a decent resume. What will you put in your resume? Okay, if these skills you do not put it in your resume, why will your resume get shortlisted? Why will you get interview calls? All we are doing today is what? Learning Java, learning Java, only Java. Can only Java get me job? Java is required. I said that to learn Spring Boot, Java is. But where is the core syllabus? That is what you will see missing. And when the syllabus is missing, projects only cannot be done. Let's continue further. Now the next thing that we are going to see here is right, why we should learn microservices in my tomorrow's lecture. So far I've discussed only 15% of the syllabus. How much? Yet 85% of the syllabus explanation is pending, which I'll be taking that up in my upcoming lecture. Is this clear? I don't want to take microservices now because that will become tough in order to understand. Let's explain this fresh tomorrow, and we'll understand why Kafka is so popular today. Yesterday, when we saw some job openings in Naukri portal, you saw somewhere Kafka or RabbitMQ was written down. Why this Kafka and RabbitMQ is so popular? We need to understand that. Yes or no? Why companies demanding that? Okay. Then we will learn, right, why these tools are required in detailed manner. JMeter, Docker, Jira, JUnit, Mockito, Jacopo, SL4J, ELK, Maven, Kubernetes, Jenkins, SonarQube, Redis Cache, Terraform, HCL, Ansible. Why should I learn this? Check this out. In Bangalore, is this part being covered? Check this out, right? And check this out with the people working in company. Are they using it? You will get to know that gap, that what are you missing during the training. Check this out with a working audience from 4 or 5 years working in a company. They'll tell you that why this is required. We will explore this. Then we'll understand why Linux is required, why shell scripting is required, what are these services in AWS, what is this auto scaling, right? What is this load balancers here? What is S3? Then we'll understand what project we are going to work on, how project development I will be doing it, what is the project that I'm going to include in your course. Before only I'll tell you. And then you are in a position to have clarity about roadmap, goal. The goal setting is done now. That I'm starting from level 1 and I have to reach this goal by completing all of these things. And then comes is the resume preparation. So with the syllabus classes, goal setting is what we are doing it now. That target to get interview calls. Is this clear? Starting from ABCD, how to reach that advanced level. Okay. Everyone, today's class clear? Right? Did you all understand today's class? Students, online students, it was my syllabus discussion class today. Are you all clear with it? Not 100%, but some clarity. You cannot have 100% clarity because you have not done this practically, but some clarity. See guys, you cannot, see, please understand, we'll follow a standard procedures being followed in the company. What they are following to develop, we'll try to attempt to cover that during our training. Okay? Yeah, you will not understand 100% because that deep learning can happen only when Everything is started. Every topic is started from basics. When I teach you Spring Boot from basics, then you will be clear. Because I've got non-technical guys. I'll keep that in mind that I start only from the beginning so that everybody can follow me. Okay, let me continue tomorrow and further discussion will happen. Same meeting ID and password. I'm not going to change the meeting ID and password. Same meeting ID and password will be used throughout the course. Okay, even people who are right now attending the lecture here, I think online, yeah. See, you need to all connect on this number 9632629033 in case you want to know about what is the course fees and all. It's 26,000 course fees. You will get EMI facilities in that. I forgot to tell you yesterday. EMI, if you pay 16,000, 1 month of time 11,000, one shot payment 26,000. Okay, placement support till you get job. Is this clear? Placement support, because see, every individual is different. Some good learner will get a job right after the course. Some person is not strong, he will take 8-9 months, 1 year, because he did not study during the course. That's why I tell you, study during the classes. Moment class is over, study and come back the next day. That delay will not happen. You don't study, what will happen? What will happen, you know? You will all then come back to me after the course and tell, I want another 2 months to study, 3 months to study, because you are not serious during the course. Don't do that. Okay, so every individual, but my support is till you get job. I'm not going to discard the student here. Even after the course is over, you don't get the job, we'll support you to learn till you find a job. All right, bye guys, take care. Sir, gap 7 years. Don't worry, don't worry, don't worry. Yesterday I've told this very clearly. Okay, we will discuss about that. So why are you so much worried about a particular thing? Can you tell me? Firstly, I'm using hibernate. Firstly, I'm using what? Hibernate. Since I'm using hibernate, you tell me one thing, right? So you're going ahead and mentioning that I will use this, I'll use that. Firstly, understand hibernate takes care of everything to interact with a database, right? So whatever you're talking about, the IDs for SQL queries or anything, use anything. Are you understanding? A doctor, once he learns things, he can do operation in any operation theater. It's not the operation theater, it is a procedure of operation. Correct. Now you tell me, sir, will you teach Eclipse? I'm teaching you Java. Will you teach Eclipse? If you know to write Java code in Eclipse, can't I do it in IntelliJ? I cannot do it in. Come on. Yes or no? So that's not the thing. It is a core part we have to focus on, guys. Anyways, bye. Take care. Beginners, you might have such doubts. You might have such doubts. No problem. Again, the number 9632629033. Sir, I have UN number. Nothing to worry. Don't worry. See, this all cases in my last 18 years. I have encountered many cases and we know how to tackle this situation. You're in India, don't worry, anything can happen in India. You leave it to me. Is this clear? It's not that you have a PF and we cannot tackle getting a job. Who said that? I'll give you so many numbers where people are already placed. And I'm sure you would have started seeing placed students interacting with me already. Yesterday I promised. Today, did you see any placed student? How many people saw? You saw play student already today. You saw play student already today. What did I tell you? Whenever I am here, some or the other play student will come and meet me and talk to me. Offline students, keep observing. And that too only out of 9 batches in 1 year with a limited audience, with only 100 members in one batch. That buzz of placements is created out of 100 students every batch, right? Okay, how many hours class? I'll tell you, hold on. You will all experience with the practicals only, then you only tell me how many hours I have to take. What if I tell you my speed of coverage will be good but teaching speed will be slow? What if I tell you in 15 days I will cover 5,000 lines of notes with just 1 hour of class, but you will find it to be slow? When you experience only, you will understand that. You will not understand that now. Yes? Yes or no? Python and all, if you are learning, it is not for development. Python has its own place. If you're dealing with AI or something, data science or something, go with Python. Again, Python with DevOps or something, okay. For backend, you should always pick the right things. Don't go with the wrong, uh, selection of the subjects. We are seeing placements in Java. Stick on to that. This is clear. These are all course selling USP. I will tell Python is easy. Learn Python for backend development, things like that. But tomorrow, when you don't get calls after 6.5 months of efforts being put, that's where you will get the pain. The first thing is you have to get interview calls. If interview calls are only not coming, how much ever you study, what is the use? Yes or no? Our students are getting placed because they are getting interview calls. Interview calls are not coming. Fake drives are given. Then what is the point studying? Ask, did you do that? Do this assignment. Just randomly get into any academy. Ask them previous month's placement records with mobile number. Previous month only show you 10. If they show 10 numbers also, I accept it. Just 10 numbers. I don't even want more numbers. 10 numbers. Can you do that? Just 10 mobile numbers you try to get. You can start from here. I'll give you 10 mobile numbers in 2 days. Confident. Get me 10 mobile numbers.